So hey guys, it's Joe Talentino from Know Jax. I'm down at the Home and Patio Show at the Prime Osborne Center, and I've got Erin Thursby, author. I like saying that. That's
You
kind of
like?
cool.
I like.
Author Erin Thursby. She has written a book called Florida Oranges: A Colorful History. That's not even out on the shelves yet. It comes on the 30th.
The
Is that right?
30th of September, yeah.
And she was nice enough to jump in for one of the chefs that was ill and do a little speaking with us here. Let's go ahead and jump into this. Since you're not here, you got to know this. Samples are always a part of the cooking demo stage. You've brought some different drinks, and this one's got some history behind it.
Right, so one of them is kind of like what they would have done to preserve orange juice around 1915, probably before 1920.
Okay.
The flavor profile in a lot of ways is kind of flat. The vinegar peps it up again.
So it is like a shrub,
It
right?
is like a shrub, but they boiled the orange juice to pasteurize it.
Okay.
So the notes in it are a little bit different than what you'd experience with like regular OJ. So it's basically boiled orange juice, a bit of red wine vinegar, and some rosemary because I get creative and I want to put something fun in there.
You knew you were going to become talking to
Yeah.
Joe Talentino with the rosemary.
Yeah.
It smells like a shrub.
It smells like a shrub, yeah.
Oh, it's not as harsh as a shrub, though.
It's not as harsh as a shrub. It's
Oh.
a lot lighter. But the stuff that you would get in a can...
So this is to preserve it, right?
Right. The stuff you would get on the shelves in a can is actually kind of terrible in 1919.
I can imagine. It was really...
Because they didn't really know how to preserve the flavor the way that they do today. So people described it as, if you ever have like some nostalgia for the old days, if you had a drink of 1920s, 1915,
So if you're going to time travel,
juice.
that's
If you're
not
going to
the
time
thing.
travel to drink orange juice from a can, that's not the time to do it. Because some people described it as a touch of turpentine, would be, because they were trying to
Notes of turpentine.
Right,
It's
notes
not
of
something you want to have.
right, because they were trying to like recapture what an orange was like, but they didn't really have the technology that we
Right.
have today to be able to like add back in those flavors and
Cool.
preserve them.
What I want to do is kind of rewind a little bit.
Sure.
How did you get to do a book about oranges? And let's get into the whole why oranges and the whole thing there.
Well, I wrote an article for Edible Northeast Florida
Yeah.
about the history of Florida oranges.
Okay.
Northeast Florida.
And for those of you that don't know, you should know, but Edible magazine is like a foodie magazine for Jacksonville and the surrounding areas. It's really good. I highly recommend you pick it up, and it's free.
Yeah, it's a great...
Beautiful photos, great articles, like yours.
And a publishing company saw that, and they contacted me and asked me if I would be interested, or if I knew anyone who was, and I said it would be me. I would be interested.
Yeah, I'll do it.
So, but, and from there, we went through a whole process, which is very boring.
Yeah, you had to do all the research.
Yeah.
Now, so a lot of people think oranges are from Florida.
They're not.
They're not at all from Florida. They grow well here. Where are oranges from?
Well, Asia, really.
Right.
But they were grown in Portugal and Spain.
When you say Asia, are you thinking
Like,
China or
really everywhere,
Persia?
but China.
Okay.
But where they came from, as far as we're concerned, is Spain.
Spain
and Portugal.
Gotcha.
So they got shipped over here, and then because every single ship had to have 100 orange seeds.
Really?
When they went to the colonies, they had 100 orange seeds because they knew kind of about scurvy, a little bit.
Okay.
So as soon as their sailors would jump off the boats, they would eat an orange, or they would eat something with oranges in it.
Gotcha.
Because if you were several months at sea, you could kind of cure yourself
After the fact.
after you got off the voyage.
Yeah.
Just before and just after, if you ate a lot of oranges, you might be okay.
Side note here completely. Did you know that they used pickles on the boat to fight scurvy?
Pickles as well, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's another thing you might not know. They're good for you.
Yeah, but the canning process was kind of difficult back then. So
They did the brined pickles back then. So,
Yeah.
and brine is always good, and you can drink the juice.
I like to drink.
I like
juice.
to drink
Yeah.
the juice. So anyway.
So we're talking orange juice. Our very first citrus processing plant in Florida was Haines City, and that was in 1915-ish.
Okay.
Before 1920.
Okay.
They started up, and it was grapefruit.
Okay.
It was a grapefruit processing plant.
Interesting. What made them choose grapefruit, I wonder?
Well, grapefruit was something that had been marketed as pretty Florida, and
Okay.
it was said that it was kind of like a health fruit at the time.
Okay.
Like it was kind of a craze.
It was sort of like acai berries are
Yeah,
now.
yeah. So they decided that's what they were going to do, and they had a really interesting setup. They used gravity, so the workers would cut the.
I use gravity every day.
I think most people. It's a household item.
It is.
Yeah. They would.
I'm gonna have a little more gravity.
They would
now.
cut the grapefruits in half, and then they would just squeeze them onto the machines.
Okay.
And then all the juice would run down. They were on the second floor.
Gotcha.
And then everything would be put into glass bottles.
Interesting. Okay.
And
Why not?
yeah, and from there it became like a fruit processing plant and beyond. But
So, the Spanish brought all of the citrus.
as far as Florida is concerned, the Spanish brought the citrus here.
Okay.
The English may have brought some in when they were here, but the progenitors, the people that brought it first, they were the Spanish. But the Native Americans were actually responsible for a lot more than you would think. They didn't bring it here,
But they grew 'em.
They spread it all over the state.
I can imagine.
And that's why people thought that they were native to Florida, because
They were already here when
right.
those people got
so
here.
settlers were coming down. White settlers were coming down in the 1800s. They were going further down to Central Florida, and they got there, and they're like,
Oranges are already there.
oranges are growing here. Oh, they must be native. No, they're not. The Spanish.
They took them from the Spanish and got
right. The Spanish traded with the Native Americans.
So obviously the Native Americans liked oranges.
They absolutely did. Yeah.
Now, is that the same for the other citrus fruits as well? Tangerines and clementines and all that kind of stuff?
Well, some of those were developed over time. There were combinations of
Sure,
different
they're
things.
bred.
Right, but when we're talking orange juice, there are laws as to what you can put in there. You can't just put any old citrus in. It's got to be a particular scientifically,
Measured.
sweet. Yes, it's called a sweet orange.
Okay.
Um,
So
and
is that a type of orange?
it's within a certain genus.
I gotcha.
But if you go like outside of that, if you do like a tangerine, no, that's no longer.
So I guess I always associated the orange with Spain because of the Valencia orange, but you say that's not even made.
It might have originated there, but California
Is where
first
they're
developed
popular,
it,
yeah.
right? And then it got more developed here. And we
Okay.
actually have some great female research scientists that kind of pumped it up.
Sure.
What you get in a glass,
This is your normal
this
orange.
is your normal, this is
Florida natural?
Florida's natural, which I have to say, they're kind of great because they're the only ones on the shelf that it's all USA, and they're all from Florida.
Okay.
I mean, it's a co-op.
Is it? Okay,
It's
cool.
a co-op, so it's actually grown here and made here. And
Are you familiar with Natalie's? That's one of the
yes,
places.
yeah. They
I don't know what their
are
rules
very
are.
large, so while they have a lot of fruit from here, and they're a Florida company, they do have to supplement a little bit.
Sure.
Because they just can't
get enough.
They can't get enough.
Cool.
But yeah, Tropicana.
A little vodka in this, so you got a screwdriver, right?
Yeah. All of the others, they tend to use a lot from Brazil. Brazil is a big place
Okay.
now that tends to have oranges.
Very cool.
So
So you did a lot of research for this
Yeah.
book. One of the fun things I think is, besides the historical, like how we got the orange, is the different things that they use the oranges for. Like
Well-
these drinks.
yeah.
You have some recipes in the book.
I do have some recipes in the book.
That's where I'm going with
That's
this.
where you're going. You're going to the recipes. I have a wonderful alcohol recipe. I think you got
Yes,
that online.
So for everybody watching, we're going to be releasing a cookbook, and inside that cookbook, an e-cookbook. I guess that's what we'll call it,
Yeah.
e-cookbook. And so if you're signed up for the newsletter, we'll be releasing it through there. And you have a drink recipe that's going to
Right.
be in there that includes orange juice. And it's a little more complicated than my screwdriver.
Well, it's not my recipe. It's from Prohibition Kitchen
Right.
in St. Augustine. I had talked to them because I was doing.
But is it historic? It has a
It has a historical angle. I was doing something on Jesse Fish, who's out of St. Augustine,
Okay.
and he was one of our first orange barons.
Okay.
Like, basically, he made bank with oranges.
Oranges.
It was oranges, and it was in the 1700s. And I found out that most of his oranges, when they went over to merry old England, because that's where they were
Okay.
shipped to, they were immediately used for cocktails, because there was a cocktail craze in the 1770s, and I thought, man, I bet everybody would like to drink. Okay, this period.
Yes.
Everybody would like to drink.
Is it a gin-based drink?
It can be. I've had it with rum,
Okay.
and I really like it. I'm a rum girl, but gin was
I just know the Brits are really heavy into gin
right.
drinks.
Gin was a drink that they were really enthusiastic about at the time, but they were getting stuff like rum,
Yeah.
and rum did happen.
Yeah,
rum
rum
happened.
happened.
Rum happened.
Rum happens.
Rum happened. So I guess I should talk a little bit more about how we get what we get.
Sure.
Okay, so orange juice was terrible
Orange.
early on.
Yeah.
Just horrible. Because they had to boil it to pasteurize it, which takes away all of
the flavor.
All the flavor, because an orange, the flavor is delicate. It's volatile, is what they call it in
Sort of
cooking.
like me. I'm delicate
You're
and volatile. at the same
delicate and volatile, just like an
time.
orange.
Just like an orange. Oh.
But but they had to preserve it, and they had to make sure nothing grew in it, so they had to pasteurize it.
Gotcha.
And it was pretty tasteless. World War II came along.
So tasteless orange juice sounds terrible.
It was pretty terrible.
And the nutrition value is probably not that good
Not
either.
that good because they didn't know how to store it correctly.
boil
They
everything
didn't,
out of it.
right. So World War II came along, and they were trying to get the soldiers to not have scurvy.
Yeah.
But they were
I see a theme here.
they were refusing to eat the rations that had crystals that they would give the World War II soldiers, and they were packed with vitamin C, but they were terrible.
Who wants to eat that? Yeah.
So they they commissioned people here in Florida to try and develop something.
Cool.
They didn't develop it until the war was over.
Done.
Because
Took a
that's
little
how
too
things
long. Yeah.
that's how things go. But
Especially in Florida.
they figured out how to make concentrate, which
Okay.
everybody says concentrate is evil now. You know, it really
It saved
was
a lot of
step.
lives.
It was a step forward.
Yeah.
So they learned how to make concentrate taste really good.
Gotcha.
And it was by boiling it down and then adding back in fresh juice.
Gotcha.
And that's how you got the good tasting concentrate that was on the shelves through maybe the 1960s.
Okay.
And a lot of those techniques, we still use some of them today, not all of them.
Now, if it's concentrate, it's usually frozen or reconstituted
Right.
from
So
concentrate.
right. So
Am I getting all those terms right?
yeah, you've got it. So even by the 1960s, the orange juice you were drinking was filled with science. I mean, yes, it comes straight from our Florida groves.
Sure.
Yes, it is natural. It's actually a really natural product.
Sure.
Has a lot of sugar in it, that's why I like it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. And it has vitamin C. But in order to get it to taste consistently well,
Right.
they had to really scientifically look at how it was done. So yes, there's a process to making
I'm
it.
kind of digging this little shrub. I do think alcohol would be good.
I think a little bit, just a drop of rum. Yeah.
Wouldn't hurt it at all.
No.
So if we skip forward to say the late 60s, early 70s, is that closer to what we are doing now? Or I mean, I know
Close-ish.
technology evolves things.
Tropicana was doing some neat stuff. Okay, so the orange juice war started around about the 80s, but there were some shots fired.
There were wars?
Yeah, well,
I missed the war.
It was a war without any casualties, as far as I know. And all it basically was the big three. It was Tropicana, Minute Maid, and Citrus Hill. They
Okay.
were basically trying to compete for the market share. And
Gotcha.
Minute Maid was the one on top.
Right.
And they did concentrate.
Okay.
And Tropicana was the underdog.
Gotcha.
And Citrus Hill was based here in Florida, and
Okay.
they're gone. They lost.
Okay.
They were under Procter and Gamble, and the two big ones besides Florida's natural today are Tropicana and Minute Maid. And Minute Maid is more international. We don't
Okay.
see it as much. Tropicana has taken over here in the U.S. pretty much.
Well, I remember when I was younger, my mom bought
It was all Minute Maid, yeah.
frozen cans.
And it's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
So
That was orange juice to me growing up. I didn't have these type of
right,
things.
but Tropicana was doing something different. They were doing not from concentrate.
Right.
They were taking the fresh juice and they were freezing it, is what they were doing.
Okay.
So when it came time for them to, like the season was over or whatever, they would take these huge chunks of ice, just giant chunks of ice, of orange juice ice, and run them through like a shredder, an ice shredder.
Right.
And they would let it melt, and then that
You've
was
got
that
orange juice.
right. So it was pretty well, like as close to the
Fresh as you can get.
right. It wasn't concentrate.
Right.
And they were marketing it that way.
Gotcha.
And slowly they began to be getting more and more market share.
Gotcha.
And they pretty much won that war because people started to perceive that like
That's
concentrate,
fresher.
right? Concentrate wasn't great.
Yeah.
They were doing reconstituted on the shelves to compete with Tropicana.
Right.
Where they would take the concentrate, store that, and then
Gotcha.
reconstitute
Gotcha.
and do that. So Tropicana kind of had like a different thing.
They had a
and
different angle at it,
publicity-wise,
yeah.
right. So they won that argument.
That's cool.
In the public eye. They've
Yeah.
definitely won that argument in the public eye. So, but Florida's Natural's been around for much longer than you probably think.
So how long?
1933, they formed.
Wow,
Yeah,
okay.
they formed their.
And you say that's a
cooperative.
co-op, right?
Yeah.
So is that a farmer's co-op? Or
Kind of, yeah. So a bunch of different farmers all over the state, they grow,
Sure.
and whatever they grow, they bring to Florida's Natural.
Okay.
And if it meets the standards,
They go in.
it goes in. And actually, there's little.
And the rest of it goes to Tropicana.
No. A lot of Tropicana is Brazil. They
Oh, okay.
they mix in a lot of other
Other juice.
juice. So,
Gotcha.
and there's nothing wrong with
Wrong with
that.
that.
That's what they have to do. I like going local.
Me?
So-
Well, you know, I know Jax is eat local, drink local, be local. I think I do too.
Yeah. So Florida's Natural would be the drink. That would be
That'd be the
that would
be
be the
one.
orange drink for you. So,
Cool.
yeah, and that war got really heated. Citrus Hill is gone, like just
When you say Citrus Hill, my mind switches that over to Cypress Hill.
No.
And I just,
yeah,
I'm
they're
sorry, that's totally different, I know.
they're gone. They lost. And Minute
Listen.
Maid kind of did too, but on an
But
international
they,
scale.
yeah, but they're just doing it other places.
Right, and one is owned by Pepsi and one is owned by Coke. I'm trying to remember which is which, but
I think Minute Maid's Coke.
yeah, and then Tropicana is owned by Pepsi.
I think
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you can double check that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more in the book,
Oh yeah.
like a lot more in the book. I know you're doing a book signing on the 30th, is that right? Or
Oh gosh, I have a lot. You have to go to my website.
okay.
Yeah.
I put you on the spot.
Yeah, you have to go. I have
I know
whole-
there's a bunch of
I
book
have a whole
signings.
schedule.
I was looking at your
Yeah.
Facebook page last night, so I know that you had a bunch of.
Yeah, if you go to my website and you go to events, if you scroll to the
So your
bottom of the
website
page.
is
My website is FloridaOrangeHistory.com.
FloridaOrangeHistory.com. The book drops on the 30th.
September 30th.
September
yeah.
30th. She was so nice to give me an advance copy, and it's even signed. I'm kind of proud of that.
You can get.
To Joe Who Knows. Heart.
Yeah.
I think we'll wrap it up right here. I think definitely catch her out because you're going to be talking at the different book signings and stuff as well,
yes,
right?
Absolutely. Depending on, some of them are just straight signings. I have talks scheduled in different places.
Yeah.
But I am signing Chamblin's is one of them,
Very
San
cool.
Marco Bookstore.
Local.
Yeah.
Very cool. And if you're not going to go local, and I know there's some of you guys out there that you can go to Amazon and pre-order the book now, and when it comes out, it'll be delivered to your house. That's it. Florida Oranges, A Colorful History. Who knows? Maybe I'll send a link in the newsletter one of these days. That might be a good thing, right?
Yeah, I have a podcast too.
I could
so-
do that. Oh, there you go. We can do
Yeah.
that too. So look, on top of all that, remember, go to iknowjax.com, sign up for the Insider newsletter. That's where you get all this kind of goodness. And also remember to watch the TV show Sunday night at 6:30 p.m. on CW17. We will be having another cooking demo starting here in almost a half an hour. That's a good question. Oh, it's Celestia Mobley from Jazzy's restaurant over on King Street. I don't know what she's
I'm
making,
excited.
but it's always good. She's known for her soul food, and she does a lot of good Cajun Creole
She's so
food over there as
fabulous.
well. So yeah, that's what's coming up after this. So stay tuned.
She's going to be a moon over the market too.
Look at that.
Yeah.